What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Overwhelmed Gamer podcast, where each episode we dive into a gaming topic, share what's currently gripping our controllers, jump into the fascinating realm of homebrew games, and we round it out with our takes of the week, usually while sipping on a cocktail or two. This week, we're talking game emulation. In our homebrew overview, we'll be taking a look at the melting apartment for the Game Boy Color. So grab a drink and don't let your house melt. Let's go.
Welcome, gamers and tipsy adventurers, to the Overwhelmed Gamer Podcast, where we unravel the mysteries of our game backlog, sip on some questionable drinks, and dive headfirst into the nostalgic world of classics and the mind-bending realm of homebrews.
A quick bit of housekeeping before we get started. I think we finally have the layout or cadence, or however you want to say it, to the show going forward. I'm going to be recording twice a month and releasing episodes on the 1st and 15th of each month. That should give me enough time to make some quality episodes and not the shit that you've been listening to lately. So yeah, that's going to be kind of the thing going forward. Also, toying with the idea of having guests for the topic of the week. So maybe rotating guests in and out. So if that sounds interesting to you, or if you are interested in coming on the show and discussing a video game related topic for like 20 minutes or so, please reach out. We'll give you a plug and so forth and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, it's one of the things we're doing. What else? Finally, social media stuff. I'm making a shift here. Before, if you followed me, I was trying to figure out how to post a little of everything all over the place, and fuck, that sucks. It was so much like trying to figure out what to post here and when or where. And since I started the YouTube channel, that's actually, I don't want to say it's like taken off, but I am getting some traction with it. So I'm kind of excited about that. So basically I'm going to stick to like 3 things. And first being the YouTube channel. I have a pretty good cadence going there. I'm going to be posting videos a week is the goal. My 2-minute game reviews, also my homebrew overview videos. And then I got a new segment that's going to be called Play or Pass, which basically I'm going to be taking a game from my NES collection that I haven't played before, play it for like 10 minutes and decide whether I'm going to play it through on stream or if it'll just continue to sit on my shelf. So that's going to be that one. Then speaking of streams, that's my the second priority would be this podcast. But then the third priority is going to be streams. Right now I stream everywhere simultaneously. I'm on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, X, and I'll continue to stream on all those, but I'm going to put more emphasis and focus on Twitch and YouTube. Those seem to be the most, where I get the best, how do I say, the best viewership and the most people coming in to take a look at stuff. Facebook, and I'm not going to stop, like I said, but Facebook kind of sucks as far as like getting their shit to work right. And X or Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it, is kind of unproven, but that might change in the future. But I don't know. We'll see. We don't know. Who cares? All right, you're done listening to me babble. Enough about all that. And now let's go ahead and get into a little segment that I like to call What's Gripping Our Controllers. If you're new to the podcast, we take this time to discuss what I've been up to since we last spoke, like games I'm playing, pickups, etc., all that kind of fun stuff. So with that, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the modern game I'm still playing, and holy fuck is this game long. You just get sucked into all the different side quests and mini games and all that kind of fun stuff. This one's going to take me a while, and to be honest, I'm having trouble since I started the podcast and my YouTube channel and all my other social media stuff. I'm having trouble finding the time to play my modern games. So I don't know how to go about doing that. I even thought about maybe streaming them, like picking one day a week or one day every other week, something like that, to stream modern games. But I don't know. I don't really know if I want to go down that rabbit hole because my time is stretched pretty thin as it is, but I'm still loving it. It's still a great game. I just trying to find time to play it has been a struggle. But that's what I've been playing on the modern front. As far as streams go, I'm streaming Beavis and Butthead for the Sega Genesis at the time of this recording. Pretty fun. Verdict's still out. I don't know. It's okay. It's kind of good. We'll see. Once I get further into it and maybe even finish it. Well, I will finish it, but once I do all that, we'll take a look back and decide whether I actually enjoyed this game or not. So, but right now the verdict's still out. As far as pickups go, yeah, there's kind of a lot this week. Or not this week, the last few weeks, I guess. First, I picked up an Intellivision, which I've never owned, but I played it a lot, so I was super excited to find it, and I got it dirt cheap. I actually have this hookup. I met this lady at a rummage sale, and she doesn't own, but she works for like a thrift shop somewhere close. I actually have no idea which thrift shop it even is. But once in a while, when she gets in a video game lot, she will send me a text with the pictures and just just ask me, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? I know she does some eBaying herself, but sometimes she comes across things that she doesn't feel like putting up on eBay or whatnot. So she hits me up. So yeah, I picked up an Intellivision with 10 or 12 games, something like that. So kind of excited to find a place on my walls to stick that cool little pickup. Other pickups, I grabbed Shadow of the Empire for the Nintendo 64. And I'm not looking to build like a huge Nintendo 64 library. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 10 games that I even give a shit about on the 64. So plan on collecting those and kind of stopping there. But I do remember playing Shadows of the Empire, and I finished it a couple times and really enjoyed it back in the day. I'd be curious if it still holds up today, but I don't know. We'll see if I ever have time to go back and play it again. But I found it not too expensive, so I grabbed it to add into the 64 collection. Another one that I'm not sure if it still holds up today, but I loved back in the day was Beyond Good and Evil, and I grabbed that one for the PlayStation 2. And when are they going to make that sequel? They have been talking about making a sequel for this game for fucking ever. And it's pissing me off, quite frankly. I remember I fell in love with this game. A buddy of mine got it for me for my birthday, I remember. And I don't remember where I played it originally. I don't remember if it was for the GameCube or the PS2. But it is, at the time anyway, I remember just being in awe of it. There's a little bit of everything. There's some stealth aspects to it. There's fighting, like action combat, which is really good. And then I remember walking around in towns, and the towns for the first time felt so alive, because as you were walking around, you would hear the people in the background talking, and you'd pull up to like a garage and there's like music playing, and it was an awesome game, an awesome experience. The story was great. I loved everything about it. And this one I'll probably give another playthrough at some point just to see if it still holds up today. I'm assuming it does, but for fucking Christ's sakes, stop teasing us. If you're going to come out with the sequel, come out with it already. You've been talking about it for 75 fucking years. I'm done waiting. Just either tell us you're not doing it or freaking make it, for Christ's sakes. Give me that goddamn game. On the homebrew front, Googie Tunes came out, so I got my copy of that. Really fun, just little kind of beat 'em up. You'll definitely see a playthrough of that on stream at some point. Also, Courier showed up since last we spoke. I don't remember if I talked about it during the last episode, but that's a cyberpunk kind of adventure game. I haven't played it yet, but again, looking super forward to checking that out. So that you'll find on stream. And then on the NES collection front, if you don't remember or don't recall or didn't listen to the past episode, I am going down the rabbit hole of collecting the entire US official releases for the Nintendo Entertainment System. So I don't remember, there's like 670 games, and I don't have many. I have like 30, 35, something like that. So, and I'm finding that obviously I didn't play 670 games, but I'm finding there's games that I would have just assumed I would have played that I haven't. Most of them being sequels. So like Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3. I never played those. I played the shit out of the first Ninja Gaiden, but never the sequels. Dragon Warrior. Well, I hadn't played any of the Dragon Warriors, but I have now played the first one, but I haven't played any of the other sequels. Even things like Mega Man. I've played Mega Man, the first one, countless times, but I've never played 2, 3, 4, or 5 for the NES. I think I played 10 when it showed up on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, so I'm finding that there's a shit ton of games for the NES that I thought I would have played or seen that I haven't. So there's going to be a lot of videos being done with that, streaming with all these games that I haven't played before. So stay tuned for all that. But anyway, to make a long story longer, the games I did add to the collection were Batman, Top Gun Second Mission, Wizards and Warriors, and Solar Jetman, and last Metroid. I picked that up too. Which, believe it or not, with the exception of Wizards and Warriors, I have not played or completed any of these. So look for most of these to show up in a Player Pass video series that I'm starting on YouTube, and I'll be streaming most of them too if they're a game that I play for a few minutes and decide yes I'm going to play this one through, or no, it's just going to sit on my shelf for all of eternity. But yeah, I surprised myself on how many games that I haven't played. So it'll be an interesting thing. It'll give me a ton of content to create and have fun with. So yeah, I think is that all I've done? Yeah, and I think that's it for what's been gripping my controller. Now it's time to refresh our drinks. And when we come back, I'm talking with Keg about our topic of the week, which is video game emulation. All right, our drinks are refreshed, and we're going to get into a topic that, I don't know, we might agree on this. We probably will agree on this. I wanted to talk about game emulation, which is, emulation by itself is fine, right? There's emulators all over the place for developers that are creating games or software for whatever system. A lot of times you don't have the actual hardware. You run it on emulations to see if it actually works or plays or whatever. A lot of my homebrew games that I play as a ROM, and you buy the digital ROM and then you play it in an emulator. So that's fine. Where I run into issues, and the reason I brought up this topic, just to take a step back real quick, is if you follow any YouTubers or anything like that, there's a thing that was coming out called the MIG switch, which was basically, and this is where it's kind of, and they all talk about it like, this is the greatest thing ever. You can actually take your games and you can dump the ROM onto like an SD card or whatever, plug this SD card into this MIG switch, and then put it in, so you can just put in a game. You put in the one cartridge and you can play all your games or whatever. Dude, for one, nobody's fucking using it for that. The reason people would buy that is so they could download pirated ROMs for their Switch and play them. Nobody's like, dude, I can't wait. I can put a whole bunch of games on one freaking cartridge to play on my Switch. Nobody's buying it for that reason. That's fucking stupid. And that's where I kind of have a problem with the emulation side of things, is when people are basically stealing intellectual property to play. I don't like it.
Now this is, you know what, it's an age thing, because you know what, 15, 20 years ago, you were the one that was sitting there going, oh, check this out, dude, I could steal this, I could steal that, I could steal. I remember doing this back in the day, where we used to, where we were getting emulators on the computer that would play PlayStation games, that only came out like 6 months ago or so. You know what I'm saying? It was like, now we're like at the point in our lives that, these people, they worked really hard on developing, like you say, some of these homebrew games. They worked very hard on developing them and going through all the processes, because good Lord, we heard a lot about that. on that weekend that we went to the Midwest Gaming Classic. And, they went through all that. You know what? They deserve their credit for that game. So they deserve my $50,
and the money,
or whatever,
Yeah.
They just deserve it.
Yeah, and you're right. It's funny that you brought that up because I didn't have an emulator that ran PS2 games on my computer, but what I did do is I modded my PlayStation. Not my PlayStation 2, it was my PlayStation 1. I modded it for one, then it would made it region free, and also it would play burned discs because you could literally, at the time it was when computers had DVD writers or CD writers. So there was, and I don't remember the name of the software, and even if I did, I don't know that I want to talk about it. But
no, I think statute of limitations is up. I'm pretty sure.
Right. But I used to go and I did. I'll fully admit I used to go and rent PlayStation games and rip them onto blank CDs, and then so I'd have them. I'd own them. Not good form, but I was younger and was like, oh, I can do this. So, but now you're right though. I think
so. It's
sure
like
my mind has changed.
How is it any different now? Other than the fact that they actually use that technology to do what they do now, like what you say, with developers making their own games now, or you and I talked earlier, in some cases you use it to, that technology to,
just at like work or whatever. I use it a lot. Yeah, just for testing different things on devices that we might not have available to us. We'll use an emulator to make sure it runs. Or even, games too, they do that, especially like the homebrew stuff, is they'll make a game and you test it on an emulator that emulates what the NES hardware would be, or whatever game you're making it for.
So there's definitely a place for it.
Right.
It's just, but it can be exploited just like everything else.
Like everything, right. I will say this, though. I do not...
Or that it wasn't evolved out of an exploit.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe that too. I don't mind though. Like, for example, if there's a game that's no longer in circulation, like let's just take Little Samson for example on the NES. To buy that just the cartridge alone, it's like $2,600. And it's not like you can now. And I don't know if it's on like the Switch eStore or not the Switch eStore, but their online thing where you have all the NES games. I'm not sure if it's on there or not, but essentially, let's say it's not, for the sake of argument, essentially the only way to play that game without emulating it is to go spend $2,500 to buy it from some reseller. Dude, emulate the shit out of that game. Have at it. Like I get, and I don't care. Like that's not going to rub me the wrong way as far as if you want to emulate stuff that's out of circulation.
Well, and you got a hell of a collection, but you ain't spending that.
No, well, I mean, we're gonna flip stuff to get to that. So yeah, I'll the goal is to get it, but we'll see. I might settle for a repo of that game if I come across it. But
it's got its good and bad uses. Obviously, I don't know. And again, if it's used to exploit and basically steal other trademarks and steal everything, and steal whoever's ideas and stuff that they're not making. I don't know. I don't agree with that part of it. But, but again, if it's used to help people make that, make their vision come true, so to speak, then
sure.
Yeah. No, I'm all for that. I mean, again, there's good and bad uses for it.
Yeah, I guess just don't be a dick. Don't steal people's shit.
Saying of all, and I'm thinking to myself, there's been so many times in our lives that we stole cable or stole freaking wrestling pay-per-views. And
I'll get into that.
I mean, and again, the statute of limitations is probably up on this. So, yeah, no, I'm not saying anything that nobody else didn't do. I mean, and I'm at the point in my life now that I don't need to do that, but
yeah,
but again, we found however, I remember for like a couple of years, dude, I relied on Justin.tv to watch wrestling pay-per-views. And then when it got shut down, we went to another website, and then, we got shut down, we went to another website, it's like.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's funny because and so did I. I had the little wand that went on top of the cable box that would unscramble everything so I could watch pay-per-views. You plugged it into what the hell is that? What's the square battery? I can't even fucking remember the name of a battery anymore. A 9-volt battery. And then you'd put, and it was just a little circuit board. You'd plug the 9-volt battery into it, set it on top of your cable box, and it would unscramble all the pay channels. So I did all that shit. I forgot about that.
Playboy TV, buddy.
Okay, dude.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, that was about the time. It was, that was great. But again, we used to, it's hard to, how do I say this? It's hard to admonish anybody else for doing this kind of stuff because we did it.
Yeah.
Except now that we're old enough and we're established enough now that we actually want to support the people that are going through the processes of actually creating new stuff. Well, back then we just wanted to steal everything we could.
Well, yeah. Well, and maybe that's the conversation is it like an age thing? Is it like as a kid, and I was even when I was I was early 20s probably when I was doing the cable theft and the PlayStation modding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if that's. I'd be curious if there's been any studies. I don't know if there's been any studies out there that are about.
No, I'm sure
stealing shit from people.
Right, but.
But yeah, I wonder because now that I did I had later on. I ended up getting for my Fire Stick. I had like a hacked Fire Stick so I could get all the different channels and movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. People call it jailbroken because it's a cool name. It's not jailbroken. It's just a fucking side-loaded piece of software that does shit.
No, that's all it is. And I'm not a hacker by trade by any means. It's just stuff that you picked up along the way.
Yeah, you can find the shit anywhere.
Yeah, whatever. So and again, going back to what you were saying, I thought, I think when video games kind of systems actually jumped the shark, so to speak, if you know what that means, is when they came out with like the Game Genie. Because then they were like, oh, well, people are exploiting this shit anyways. Why don't we just come out with something that allows them to exploit it?
Well, I don't know that the Game Genie is the same as stealing a game. The Game Genie is just...
No, not stealing the game, but like cheating. You know what I mean? Like just cheating in a game. It's like...
Yeah, it's just cheat codes.
Yeah, well, no different. Well, I believe that in a lot of these different games. Like Sims 4, you can put in there's got to be 500 different passwords you could put in to get big heads and unlimited money and whatever. You know what I'm saying? It was there was all kinds of...
Oh, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. They kind of embraced it and said, hey, let's just do this, They kind of embraced the fact that people were getting into the whole idea of exploiting shit,
I don't think that's an exploit. I think that's a function of the game.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Well, not if you want to actually, not if you're actually going to just play the game to play the game like it should be played. But then they kind of just said, you know what? We know you're going to find cheats, or we know you're going to make shit that's going to make this cheat or whatever. So we'll just do it ourselves.
Right. Just
it's just because everybody's looking for that exploit.
Right.
That's the only reason why I brought it up.
It's
everybody's looking for that exploit.
So if you go into it's kind of like we used to play Ultima Online a lot. Mm-hmm. And we used to, and eBay used to be a big thing. You know what? I'm going to stop right there. I'm not even going to talk about that because that's a whole other topic that we can get into. Yeah, that's a whole episode all in itself. So we're going to stop right there. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I don't like it. It shouldn't do it. Give people their money. that work so hard to make whatever product it is. But I'm being a hypocrite because I used to do it when I was little, and I don't do it anymore.
Well, and again, that's the only reason why I brought it up. I think there really is
it's
kind
funny.
of I think there is a correlation with age. You know what I mean? It's back then we were like, oh yeah, we were all giddy about it. Yeah, check this out. I can do this.
Right. No, you're right.
And then now you're like, well, I don't need to do that, man. I'm just going to pay the dude.
Or maybe it was just right. Or maybe it was, could be a money thing too. I remember when I first, got my hacked Fire Stick was right after I canceled cable because I lost my job. So I was like, well, I don't want to not watch TV. So, and I'm not getting rid of the internet. So yeah, here we go. It's not good, but it is what it is. And it's out there. I don't know that it could ever be fully stopped.
No, it's gone too far now. It's gone way too far now. Because for everyone that they shut down now, it's the whole the Napster argument from way back in the day. You know, like when they started doing that file share and stuff, and then Napster shut down, and then all of a sudden Kazam and whoever. So all of a sudden there's like 15 other ones, man. It was just like for every what do they say? It's the Hydra. For every head that you chop off, another one, 6 more chop,
6 more show up.
Yeah. It's just like, I think it's gone to that point, but somehow or another, the industry kind of corrects themselves, how they used to, again, going back to the Napster thing, how Metallica and all these other bands went against that, blah, blah, blah. Well, then they started making their stuff available for digital download. And then, you had to pay for it.
Yeah, well, and then I think, Apple's the one that kind of started that with the whole iTunes thing. And I think the smartest thing that they did was they just made it dirt cheap. It was like, okay, you can buy the song.
Well, you can buy the song instead of the whole album.
For $1.
Yeah.
And it's like, people were like, all right, I don't have to. Yeah, for $1 and it just works. I download it and it works. You don't download it and it might be not the song that you tried to download.
You know what? And the record company didn't have to spend that money to make a CD or make a tape or make the casing. So it's nothing. So it's up to so eventually, and you're going to watch. The industry always kind of corrects itself. So for every exploit that comes out, there's something that's going to exploit the exploit.
Right.
And somebody's making money. So.
Yeah. It's too bad.
I'm hoping that. But I'm hoping that it's that way. But, and again, and yes, and then it's unfortunate that there's so many different, whether it be independent or actually software companies or whatever, that are losing a lot of money on that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I kind of have to think that they're starting to figure that into their numbers these days. You know what I mean? They got to almost kind of factor that in.
You think companies already say like, okay, well, our game's going to get out there and 16% of it's going to be theft or basic or whatever.
Yeah. Out of
Right. All right. Well, I've now talked myself to boredom about this topic. This one sucked. We need to come up with better topics. Keg, what the hell's wrong with you?
That wasn't my idea.
God damn it. All right. Well, we're going to get out of this, and we're going to talk about a game that you don't have to worry about being stolen because it's absolutely free. You can get it from their itch page. What I'm going to do is cue up a little music, and when we come back, we're going to talk The Melting Apartment. This week on our homebrew overview, we're taking a look at The Melting Apartment for the Game Boy Color. This one was first released in 2023, so it's like, I don't know, a year old or whatnot. And it was developed by Flower Studio, who, by the way, is really hard to track down. I've been trying to find a way to contact these folks to see if I can get them in for an interview on the pod or just get in touch with them in general because I want to talk about their game, and it's super, super sick. Just in general, this game is awesome, and it's right up my alley. And it's currently free right now, so you can download it on their itch.io page, and you can play it in any Game Boy Color emulator. It is a point-and-click adventure. So you have, your typical point-and-click stuff. You have an inventory. You pick up different items throughout the game to help solve the problems. One of the cool things I like about it, though, is it's not just point-and-click. So you have full control over your character, the detective that you play, where you can walk around the areas, freely just with a D-pad like any other game. And then once you get to find something, you can click on it and it blows up. And then you can see like all the different things that you can interact with and manipulate and pick up to add to your inventory and so forth. But the story is basically this woman moves into an apartment and she goes missing. So you play as a detective to go in and try and solve the mystery. And yeah, there's 3 different endings. And it took me if I had one negative is that it's short. Like if once you know what you're doing, you can probably play through this game in like 15-20 minutes and get all 3 endings. In fact, I did a playthrough of it. It's up on my YouTube channel right now as one of my lives. You'll see 2 different times, and one of the times I played through, I got 2 of the endings and wasn't able to figure out the last ending. So that took me a while. I played it for, I don't know, at least 2 hours and wasn't able to find that third ending. And another kind of funny thing, my daughter is the one that actually found it when we did our homebrew overview video for this. And so, yeah, check that out too. But yeah, you can, once you have it, like again, 15-20 minutes and you can play through this game. What else? Some of the other things is, if I had to criticize it, is that it's some of the characters that you run into. There's dialogue, and there's a lot of dialogue, but which is good. I don't mind the dialogue, but a lot of it doesn't lead to much. So you'll have a conversation, and even though it will kind of push the story forward a little bit, there's nothing else to do but listen to some of the folks say something, and then you're kind of wondering, or at least I was left wondering, well, there's got to be more to it. I need to be able to like interact more with these people, or maybe even help these people. And it doesn't lead to a whole bunch. Trying not to spoil anything here. Those are super nitpicky stuff. The game all in all was great, and I am a huge sucker for these point and click adventure type games, especially when they bring them to legacy consoles like Game Boy Color or NES or any of that kind of stuff. The presentation and the graphics and sound is where this one like super shines. It is this is why I wish I could get in contact with somebody, but whoever did the graphics for this thing, they did an awesome job. And do yourself a favor, if you download this and you have an emulator to play it on like a handheld, do so, because I played it on like my big monitor, and the graphics still looked really cool, but they look way better if they're shrunk down into like handheld size. You can really see more of the detail. Once it gets blown up too much, you lose some of that detail in the graphics. But regardless of how you play it, yeah, this thing, they're big graphics. So like when you talk to somebody that zooms in on like a picture of their face or some of their body, whatever, and they're sick. Dude, the graphics are freaking amazing. The detail that they were able to put in to some of these characters that you talk to are just really suck you in. And it's even just how do you want to say it? The ambiance of the game, I guess. It's dark and dirty, and it's done on purpose, obviously, because that's the whole feel of the game. Is it's really and it really, the graphics and the presentation really carry that along. So it's just amazing. It's a super cool game, and you'll have as long as you don't look at any walkthroughs or whatever, it'll take you maybe a few hours, 2-3 hours to actually figure out all 3 endings. But again, once you do, it's a pretty quick playthrough after that. So there's not a whole ton of replay value here, but it is so worth the initial playthrough. It's amazing. I thought they did a great job. I hope that they realize how much people love this game, because if you're even looking at like their comments on itch.io and other people have played this, people love it. And I hope that at some point they give us a sequel, or, maybe even not a direct sequel, but maybe just continue the story of the detective and give him a whole new adventure, something like that. But yeah, super, super cool game. Super fun. Check it out. You can watch my stream of it if you don't want to play it but want to see what I'm talking about. You can see the whole playthrough on my YouTube channel. And I did a homebrew overview of it too, so you can get, if you don't want to be spoiled and you just want a little synopsis of it before you go down and play it, check that out. But yeah, The Melting Apartment for the Game Boy Color, definitely worth the playthrough. Here's one last taste of the music, and when I come back, we'll be giving our last takes. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the podcast this week. We're trying to get better. Hopefully we're getting better. We'll see. I don't know. I'm going to keep doing it. I figured the more I do it, the better we'll keep getting at this. We'll see. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just keep sucking. But if you like Yes, That Suck, and if you don't mind leaving us a review, a good review would help. I heard I don't really know what it does, but I guess, it helps. It gets you recommended, or people will know that the podcast doesn't suck as much as we all think it does, or I think it does, whatever. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Just do that whole review stuff that everybody talks about. Check me out on social media. Visit the YouTube channel as well. That's where the majority of my focus is going to be placed, is my YouTube stuff and this podcast along with my streams. But yeah, that's it. Thanks again, everyone, for taking the time to listen, and we will see you next time. Late.